two agencies today with us. One is OltreFrontiera. It's an agency that does almost like luxurious shop windows and vitrines that you have in Monte Napoleone. They work with lots of different brands, starting from Armani. They have Moncler as a client, Moschino, different others. You can go to their website and see more. And then we have a representative of Moschino today with us, who is doing visual communication and merchandising specifically for the brand.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Cyril Lauria. I'm working for OltreFrontiera Progetti for 7 years right now. I'm a project manager and also art director of the company.
My name is Stefano Barni. I am actually the director of visual merchandising, special windows and interior design for the Maison Moschino. I've been working in the last years for different brands from Bottega Veneta to Margiela, Brioni. And my job basically is to design all the windows and approve everything that is creative, let's say on the part is offline.
How does every project go? Because you have an idea and then you come to OltreFrontiera to produce it. How do you guys start the process? What are the approvals? And then are you present at every stage?
Every window concept starts from a project that is product based, or product based means also the brand. I mean, it can be a very wide spectrum of meanings when you say product in a brand. When we decide to launch, for example, a bag, what we do in the house, we analyze the aspect of this bag and we start creating a story. Let's say, what is this bag for us? What is the bag for the designer? And we decide how to represent it. Let's say we take the project, we study, and we try to have a very unique idea. We have a team, of course, and that design the project. 3D renderings are what we use today. And after that, we go, in this case, in Moschino, to Jeremy Scott. We discuss it. If he likes it, we move on. Then after his approval, we go to them. But there is a big part of research, of understanding of really the target of people we want to speak of, and that's mainly what we do.
The customer arrive with a brief, and then we have to work on the brief in order to engineer, to design it, actually, to make it possible to produce it. And we have to work, it's a partnership with the customer. It's not just a brief and then we have to produce it. It's a brief and then we have to do a prototype and select some samples, check which material is more adapted to realize the idea, and we have all this work to do with the customer. We don't work alone.
Budget is really fundamental, so I can have a very brilliant idea that will cost like 50,000 and nobody will give me that type of money, but I want that type of image. So at that point, what you do is just to go back to your design and start studying the material that can bring you down to the price point that you can spend.
Okay, how much time does it usually take from like the idea to the actual shop window to happen?
3 months is something like
Yeah,
this.
ideally for Christmas windows you should start before August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You should start.
You should start before.
The truth.
We have in OltreFrontiera many new clients coming recently, because you know there are so many new designers happening, but I don't know if like newer designers care that much about like the shop windows, whatever, or you work more with like more established brands.
Yeah, actually we work more with established brands and big brands. Actually, we have requests from the new brands also, and we work with them. But usually the big brands knows that they have to have a good window. Actually, they know that they have to spend money for window. The new brands, maybe it's not the first, how can I say it? It's not the first investment they have to do, actually. But that's why we work a lot with the big window, big brand, because we are in the market since '93.
Have ever cases when everything was approved and then literally like last day it went to production, it's like change everything, stop. What do you do in those cases and how do you operate in order to like recover the situation?
We have to do it. We have to do it.
I can tell you an episode. It's funny.
Okay.
So we did the couture, men's couture for the first time in Margela with John Galliano. So we arrive and nobody's allowed to see the show before. John is very specific, but he didn't say to anybody that this was a fashion show genderless. It was the first time that he was like interpreting like gender fluid. Like it was literally the size of the clothes were so small that were the size for a girl. And imagine that we arrive, we have an entire production of showrooms, like it was crazy. Impressive to see, but then when we go to put clothes on, and you have to invent something. We start like sawing the mannequins on the sides, and believe me, it was hard. Like, eventually we managed, but it was something we worked, I think, over the clock for 2 days. It was insane. But at that point, you have the product. I can blame the fact that nobody gave me a brief that I needed to order mannequins in a different size, but you have to react.
Did it ever happen to you that you guys produced already like the shop windows or anything, and then you deliver it to a client and they say no?
The customer is aware of what we have delivering, so because there are several steps before delivering a window, installing it. So there are prototypes. First there are samples. There are a lot of meetings. There are a lot of works before installing the window.
Women working specifically in production of the shop windows and merchandising. From the research and like few conversations, I realized it's like much less women, weirdly, than men, specifically in the production of the like actual production of the shop window.
Actually, it's changing now. Actually, in our company, we just have 5 new workers. 5 are women. In production, we are not only engineers that we have to design the windows. We have to understand also what the customer wants. So,
like, I've been ambassador for White Ribbon of Caring when I was in Bottega and in Brioni. So they made us like really think about it, and this is beginning of 2012 maybe. I was living in New York, and Mr. Pino came out telling us we have to be more careful. Like, we need to involve women more. There was really a huge difference between the men's in power and the women, like, that were working as hard, but there was a difference in salary. And I remember him talking about it, and it was so inspiring because you don't think about it. Maybe you don't even know. I didn't know. I didn't know that it was a difference of salary. So from those days, I started like taking really care in my teams to have an average, like if it couldn't be 50-50, I would prefer to work with women's than with men's, because I agree with him. There is a different sensibility with what we do. Especially we are talking mostly in fashion to girls. Do I know enough about that world? I don't think so. You'll never know enough. So it's nice to hear different point of views, and I have to say that average they work harder than men's. I'm totally hands down. I can say that they care more. At least the ones that I worked with.
Okay.
And but for example, in Moschino, we have an internal production also windows. It's very specific. It was built from Franco Moschino. He wanted a small lab inside the house. So let's say for big projects, we go to them. But all the details, if we make a little, for example, a Christmas window is kind of odd, but we see there's going to be a big spider in it. we did it in the house. We do all the teddy bears in the house. They're all girls. And scenographers and they're amazing. They do things that are unreal. I think when it comes down to production, there is a phase that I would agree that it's necessary the strength,
Yeah.
and that unfortunately it has. For example, if you install a window, the guys work so hard, and you see me, I'm not a small man, and sometimes I'm like, I couldn't do that, and I don't think it's even fair to put somebody like in the condition to push themselves physically that much. But there is, of course, everybody has different skills in life, and I think the important is to bring up the skills of each one another but with the respect of the strength that everybody has.
I think that technology actually helped to to build more equal teams in terms of gender.
I think in our case, it doesn't change a lot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not because we are designers, so we work on computers, or before we work with Sketch, but it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. In our case, for production, you have to work with the suppliers, because there are a lot of a chain of suppliers, very big. So we don't produce internally. We work with a lot of suppliers, and there is a lot of men. And sometimes for women it's difficult for the woman to be how do you say it, to be respected by the supplier. So that's the point sometimes. So but they are changing.
When you go in certain types of, especially with smaller suppliers that bring, for example, wood, it can be difficult. But there is, for example, when there are very specific things that men's maybe cannot do. If you look at brands like Bottega Veneta, the intrecciato is made by women, like men's cannot. They have their hands are too big. Or, for example, if you look at Brioni, when they do the revero of the jacket, it's all girls, and they learned how to do the revero on the jacket when they're 14. Because from when they are 14 to 16, it's when you get the ability to to do a specific movement,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes much better in women's than in men's. It's.
That's very interesting,
Yeah.
actually. Any kind of production is always very, resourcing in every single kind of way. What do you guys think about it? And do you think, because now so many things get produced and so many things go to waste after, do you have any thoughts about what we can do, or even you guys in your jobs daily, what you can do in order to avoid this?
I think in the fashion industry now is changing a lot of things, and a lot of brands have the sustainability. Sustainability. Sorry, I don't.
It's okay.
Topic. It's very, very important for a lot of brands, especially for the north of Europe brands or American brands. Is very, very important. And now it's before, for the windows we have budget, we have the ideas and the design materials. Now we have also sustainability. That's important, and it's a big point from our side. Each brief is different, so it's difficult to make everything sustainable. Sustainable is very difficult because it depends. If someone wants something in brass, in chrome, it's difficult to make it sustainable. We suggest every time to the customer to use some sustainable material instead of. But it depends on the budget. It depends on a lot of things. In our company, about the packaging, we already use almost the most of the packaging in sustainable materials. So in this case, for each company, each customers, we always have sustainable packaging. Mm-hmm. Then for the project, it depends on the project, and depends on the brief, and depends on the budget of the window. And it depends on the brands, because some brands have they project the window in order to be 100% sustainable. So at the beginning, they told you that we don't want materials that is not sustainable. We want 100% of the window like this.
Like we have to really believe in we are able to change. The reality is that everything you see in a window most likely will end up in the trash. And this is very sad because there is not only for the trash, because there is so much work behind. And believe me, it's heartbreaking sometimes. We make beautiful things with great materials, and then it's just waste. It's like 1 month of life. I am trying from a long time to introduce sustainable materials. Caring, for example, has been one of the first companies trying to do something that could really impact the business. I remember in 2011 we started using sustainable mannequins in some companies. They're unbreakable, much better of the usual ones, and they cost a half, weirdly. So that was the first step. But during the years, you can't always have it under control. It's unfortunate, but it's very, very, very difficult. What you can try to do is to make as beautiful as you can things, so people will try to buy them. And I always try to put things that we create for the windows on sale. So with very little money, maybe you can buy something cute. Because sometimes we even build like furniture. It's so sad, you can use it, but because there is also a big problem for our companies, the cost of space. Because you will not believe how much it costs to storage these things. And maybe they end up in a storage for 5-10 years, and then ultimately they end up in the trash. So you have to be conscious that you have to save somewhere. Definitely there are a series of materials right now that can help you, but it's the designers that have to make an effort to go and study what it can be better than other materials, because it's easy to use the cheaper material, but it's an investment. So I think that everybody has to start thinking in a different way.
There are so many people, it's not about even producing things, but they're impulsive shoppers, people who don't know what they're buying. Many consumers still are not educated enough. So I don't know whether it's possible to resolve this problem now, in your opinion, or we have to start from a smaller generation so they will grow up with that, mindset.
Definitely from the small generation, I think.
I think that with the right tools, we're all ready to change. I cannot expect somebody to change if I'm not giving them the right tools. If you start, for example, companies building a packaging that you can actually throw away, and goes back to be dust eventually in time. If for example, I discovered that there is Aquavera that has these green bottles that they're sustainable. So now I look for the green bottle, and I'm 39. I'm not 15. So I guess that now I know. So I prefer to go towards that than the regular bottle. But I think that the tool is fundamental. The tool is fundamental. If you want to educate someone, you have to show them the way. You cannot. You can make a different type of path for somebody that is younger, but they will have the tools as well. For the older generations, it's just a matter of taking away certain things like mono-use plastic. Why would you go to a beach and eating one single plastic cup it's easy. That's the only reason why. Because you don't have to go home and wash the dishes. That's how much they take. We all have dishwashers. So it's really weird. We are lazy. And I think that we want to make the difference. I don't know a human being that in front of a possibility of a better life will not get that,
Do you guys see the lack of education maybe in younger people who come maybe to do an internship within your companies or whatever? Because I hear a lot from one another that currently it's a big problem because students attending fashion school specifically, or wanting to work in fashion, they kind of seem to have a different perception of what it is. They don't understand it's a lot of hard work and research.
I think the lack of education starts from their parenting,
Uh-huh.
because it is a hard job. I mean, I said before, you have goals. You have, like, the designer can change idea. You have to work overnight. Sometimes you're so tired you can't even lift your arms for how much you worked. But if you have the attitude to love what you're doing, and you choose to do that, eventually they'll pay off. But there is I think a lot of people come in fashion thinking there is like this fairy tale world where everything is pink and joyful. It's not. Like, it is hard work. That's why it's one of the most successful industry in the world, and you're privileged to work in this type of company.
Advice to whomever wants to work specifically in what you guys do, which is visual communication and merchandising. What would you advise in a few sentences?
Actually, you have to enjoy your work. Actually, it's the main.
No, but like if you want to work in specific company, like when you hire people, what maybe is the quality you're looking for, or how do you pick a CV? Like, how does it happen for you?
I don't know. Maybe I have more idea on the.
If I may,
to reply on this.
if I may, guys, like, CVs, keep them simple. Nobody cares about puppets and to have things like crazy. I see some CVs sometimes. I was like, okay, you want to show me you're creative. If you see my CV, it's literally a white page with written what I do. That's it. Because when you have somebody in front of you, that person is giving you his time. He has 15 things to do in another room, and he needs to read very quickly what you're able to do. You know, it's nice, put it nice, clean, and neat, and that helps because it's direct the message. You write a little bit about yourself. Try to get your personality out, but don't make it too complicated. Sometimes I see 4, 5, 6 pages. It's a book. I don't have time. I don't have time for that. And but especially if you want to do this job, I think that it's fundamental to have a component that I think it's you have to keep dreaming inside. You have to have something inside that keeps you a little bit, like, you have to go to, like a kid. You have to have that dream. It gets through every day, every windows, because if you have to imagine something, creativity comes from imagination, and so your mind has to be free. Your heart needs to be free. Like, you have to get inspiration and be open to the world, because ultimately, like, you absorb what you see, and you can transform it in something that is meaningful for others, because you're communicating, like, when you do a window. So you always have to care. You have to care.
Okay, we're done. Thank you.
Sketches that were so pretty. Now we have literally, like, almost a picture. I insist.
Actually,
Okay.